Hey everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. Hope everybody's doing great today. So it looks like we got everybody back from SWAT. In the comments, let me know how SWAT went. I know Michael went there. Did anybody else go to SWAT? And let me know, especially if it was your first time, let me know what you thought about it. But if it was not your first time, let me know what happened. Was there anything really cool that I missed? I know I was pretty bummed. I was watching the Instagram posts and all that kind of stuff, but couldn't make it this year. So hopefully next year. SWAT is going to be my main focus for events to go to. So hopefully everything will work out. It'll be pretty good and we'll have some fun next year. And if you haven't been to SWAT or you haven't been to any, especially if you haven't been to any of the events, you know, there's like pen shows where like collectors of pens go. You know, people sell pens obviously there. You have the pen turners gatherings with different names of different things. And that's mostly for people like, you know, that turn pens. So it's going to be a bunch of pen turners going there, not like pen sales. And then you have like the turning symposiums, which, you know, are a broad array of turning focused things, but those things are awesome. You get lots of different stuff. And I know that SWAT has really put an emphasis on pen turning. They've added a lot more of that stuff, a lot more of resin turning stuff if you're into that, but then a ton of wood turning. And if you want to, you know, like brush up on skills, they have all those classes that you can go to, demos, and really learn a lot of cool stuff and see some interesting stuff from professionals. You know, not just dudes on YouTube or whatever. These people, like, that's what they do kind of thing. So they're excellent teachers and everything. So it's pretty cool. But let me know, and I'll try and kind of stop and see what's going on from SWAT. Let's see here. So SWAT was awesome. Yeah, I know. I really missed hanging out with Jake. Oh, actually, speaking of Jake, I'm going to be going on their podcast next week on Wednesday. So I don't know. They do it live? So I'm guessing that people can join. So I think it's, I don't know. He didn't tell me what exactly was going on. We just kind of arranged stuff, and I had parent stuff going on. So it's been kind of it's been one of those things. But I'm pretty sure that you can join the chat during the show, or, you know, during the stream. So that I think is going to be Wednesday at 5:30 Pacific time, 7:30 Central, I believe. So if you want to join in on the fun on that, it's pretty cool. They have really good podcasts. They have lots of people on as like panel people, and they have a guest on usually. I think pretty much every time, but it's going to be pretty fun. And if you haven't caught some of their older ones, I've been kind of catching up on some of their older ones, and they're really good. They got some really good guests on, so you get to like really get to know, you know, certain people. And then there's they bring a lot of interesting people that you maybe haven't heard of, you know, so you can kind of learn about new people. So anyway, so today what we're going to do, we're going to turn. So let me go grab those blanks. If you didn't see the demolding video, man. Tell you what, this is, I think, the first time I've done 8.5-inch long blanks for the demolding, and I was shooting them, and they were going, one of them flew like up over here, and one of them flew over there. So these 8.5, you got to really watch the 8.5s. I think the problem is the taller molds bend a lot more. Like you don't realize how much, like when you're trying to squeeze out, you're moving the thing and then sticking the, you know, you got your air gun, and you got to kind of move the mold away from the blank to shoot it in there. The problem is these things flex so much because they're longer that it's like you got to watch where you're aiming stuff. So if you're going to shoot them out, be careful. Wear some eye protection. It was getting pretty crazy. Let's see here. They do a live on Saturday too. Oh, nice. Sweet. Yeah, live chat if you watch on YouTube. Yeah. 5:30 Pacific, 7. Yeah, sweet. Oh, we mentioned me. I know. I keep missing the Saturday morning cartoons. All right, so overhead view. So here's what we got, and I'm a little bit disappointed. You know, it's funny. One thing that I want to share with you guys is when you're mixing up colors, one day it can look like perfect, because in the cup this looked pretty close to like a sandy color. This is pretty like yellow orangey. It's not that bad. I think it maybe looks a little worse on camera possibly. And it's funny because if you look at these from like across the room, totally get the beach thing. Like it looks like sand to me. But when you kind of hold them up, it's like one second you look at them and you're like, oh, that looks like kind of like mustard. And then 1 second you're like, oh, that's kind of sandy beach. So I think that it needs to be toned down. We needed to add more white to this, and I think it would have been dead on. It's not bad. It's just not, like I said, colors are tough, especially when you're like staring. A lot of times, like Arizona Diamondbacks, Arizona Cardinals, you got like, so there's like all these reds. That's probably one of the most red different colors out of my team color blanks. Red is probably the one that I have like the most different shades of. And it's horrible when you're working on it because you're just looking at these colors and it all just bleeds together. And so like one thing to keep in mind, where I'm going with this is if you're trying to match colors, don't feel too bad if when you were doing it or like one day it looked dead on and then like the next day you're like, wow, that's not even close. That happens, I think, to everybody, and it's really difficult. Different lighting can change colors, but if you're staring at colors, and I swear, one day your eyes will be like, oh yeah, that looks great. The next day you're like, wow, that looks terrible. And sometimes as things cure, they kind of change a little bit, not like yellowing, like we talk about with like UV exposure, but as things kind of like cure for a few more days, like wait. If you're really trying to match a color, wait until like the full cure, like 5 days, then look at it and kind of play around. You can usually get it pretty close, but you might find that you need to tweak it just a little bit after full cure. So just a couple little notes. I like these blanks. They look good. I think that trying to go for like maybe a light gold mica might be a better way to go for sand. It looks more sandy and it would have a little bit more like kind of swirly stuff where, if you're looking at the beach, a lot of times there's like kind of different colors in the sand. So mica powder might be a better way to go, but I kind of wanted to just try this. I've never done this, especially going for like sand. I'm very happy with the macro pearl that we put in here. It definitely twinkles. It may not show up very well on camera, but it definitely does. When the light hits it, it sparkles. I don't know if I can find I don't know if you guys can see that or not. I'm not seeing it on my monitor, but it definitely does kind of twinkle just like sand does. So, excuse me. So I'm pretty excited about these. They look pretty good. What we're going to do is we're going to turn up an Apollo. We got the bullseye turning supply kits. So I went with an Apollo this time. I'm going to drop a link. They're still doing if you haven't ordered yet, they're still doing the 15% off, like your first order kind of thing. So there's a link to that if you want to go check out Bullseye Turning Supply. Now, let's talk about what I screwed up on. So I'm a little bit mad at myself. I kind of screwed up the drilling and I had to kind of take a little bit more off kind of thing. And what ended up happening is the cap. So these ones are a little bit tight, but I ended up getting the cap. This is the cap side. This is the body side. So this is the cap. And I ended up getting this a little bit deeper than I should have. And so the problem was when you twist these together and when I glue, and then you clamp them. The problem is when I glued this in, this one, I don't know if you guys can see the gap. There's like a gap because when I clamped it in, it wasn't like there was more room for this thing to go. I don't know. I screwed up basically. So there's a little bit of a gap right there between the blank and like the edge. So the first thing I want to do, I'm pretty disappointed. If I was trying to like selling this pen, I would probably just redo it. But what we're going to do is we're going to try and kind of fix this a little bit with a little bit of UV resin. I don't know how this is going to go. It can't be any worse than having a huge gap, I don't think. So let's just kind of try that. I'm going to stop real quick and see what's going on in the chat. Mike's going to be in Vegas. Nice. Yeah, what's happening in Vegas? It's going to be hot, probably. Let's see here. Copper Owl's here. Yeah, so one thing I wanted to mention is, so the Olympic pen that we did last time, that was using the Artemis kit, and it's a little bit bigger. And you get I think this is a number 6, like size, or like a, whatever they call that, like a larger nib. Whereas this one, let me get the kit stuff out of here, is just a little bit smaller. I think it's a number 5. And kind of hold this on top where it would kind of sit, sort of. You can kind of see it's a smaller nib. I thought it'd be kind of cool to try a little bit smaller one. I don't think functionally, I don't think there's really a whole lot of difference. I think you can make this one a smaller pen, I would imagine. I think they might even have they might have dimensions. But anyway, I think it's going to look cool. And I went with the brass plating. I thought that would be, I don't know. Thought that'd be kind of neat. Anyway, still kind of mad at myself for screwing this stupid blank up. Anyway, all right, so let's see here. Oh, you bought a new bandsaw, nice. Yeah, mind the gap, no doubt. I'm so mad at myself for doing that. That's, I would say, like, gluing in the components is like the only tricky part of these kits. They can be kind of a pain. And if you notice, I already fixed up a little waste block to this. It's all ready to go. The reason I did that, you know, we had an 8.5 inch long blank, but there was way more, I don't know. And so the outsides of blanks like this, where you've poured multiple layers, like even this one doesn't look like there's any teal in it, barely. However, I can see some teal. So don't assume that whatever's on the outside, how it looks, like how much you think of this sand color is there. Don't assume that that's going to be exactly how it is on the inside. It just, when you're pouring resin down, it just kind of moves around in there a lot of times, and it may not, you know, like this one seems like there's like a ton of sand color in there, but I seriously doubt. What's happening is the outside of the blank, or, you know, when you pour it in the tube, you just got a lot more of the yellow on the outside. And so I don't know. There can be some yellow all the way through this a little bit here and there, but don't assume that you've got like this much sand. However, at the same time, I don't love the sand color. It's not my favorite. So I kind of wanted to scoot down, like I was using, well, the other thing was I wasn't sure how much of the blue and the teal I had. So I wanted to start here. I didn't want extra. So to do that, you got to go about 2.5 inches, and I didn't want to waste off blue. So I added a waste block in the end of that, and then I ended up, you know, cutting off more of the sand. So just to let you know how I was kind of looking at that. Now with this UV resin, the way it works is you're gonna, let's see here. I need to go get my little flashlight. I'm just gonna like layer it in there carefully, kind of, sort of. I'm not gonna blob a bunch of it in there right off the bat. I'm gonna kind of just paint in. I'm using a tiny little paintbrush. I think it's like an eyeliner brush, I think they call it. Oh, actually, I'm gonna use one of these. I might even use one of I'm gonna use this. This is like a paintbrush, but it's like a fine tip kind of paintbrush deal. And the other thing is I'm also gonna dye this just a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is we're just gonna dump some of this out. It's always a better idea, especially if you're messing around with your flashlight, not to leave the main jug open. Because if you shine that UV light in this thing, it's going to cure in your thing. So it's always a good idea to put a little bit in something else. That way, if you screw up, you didn't just ruin your entire bottle. You got to watch where you're pointing that flashlight. All right, so we're going to add, let's see here. I guess we'll just add some of that dark ocean blue mica powder. Now, the problem is when you start adding stuff into your resin, you know, the UV resin, it can kind of block it from like curing. So CA glue might be maybe a better way to go with this. I don't know, but I think we'll be able to kind of add a little bit and it should work. I just want to add a little bit of color in there so that I'm matching. Oh, yeah, I guess I should have done teal. I think blue is going to be better. I think it'll hide it better. So we'll just add a little bit of blue. I know that I had a plan, I just didn't know why until I thought about it for a minute. So I've just mixed that in. Probably actually a better idea not to like stir it around like I just did, because you'll introduce more bubbles. I'm going to try and kind of pop some of them. Anyway, we got our UV resin. And it should be cured and ready to go for turning and stuff with plenty of time. And so one thing I'm going to do, I can't see close enough. I'm going to get some magnifying lenses out. Oh, I'm kind of getting it. So the beauty of UV resin, I guess I'm going to be kind of dumping this on more than I thought. But the beauty of UV resin is until you shine it with the light, you've got unlimited working time. So it's not going to cure. You know, that's the problem with CA glue, is it just kind of cures whenever it feels like it. But what I can do is, if I get it on the plating here, I can kind of wipe it off a little bit. Then I can hit it with my light. And once you hit it with the light, then it's cured. And you can move on, start working on the rest of it. I got to get my arms. Can you guys see? I don't know if you guys can see or not. Kind of a hard thing to film. I think I might need to actually drop down to a smaller brush. I had another brush out. Then I looked at it and it looked like super tiny. But I think we're going to go with, this thing's even smaller. I'm just picking up so much of the liquid that it's kind of hard to just nestle it in there. Not sure that that's working any better. Got to kind of be patient on this. Definitely helps to get like magnifying lenses or something out. I've just got some readers on right now, but in fact, I think I have magnifying lenses. I think I'm going to pull those out so I can really see the details of this thing. I forgot to wipe that off, didn't I? Jeez. That's okay. Like I said, I don't think it can get any worse from where it is. I gotta get this thing really close to my eyes. Ooh. Pretty delicate work here. But I think it's working. That's the beauty of it. Let me wipe that off. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this thing perfect, no matter how hard I try, but we'll try. All right, so it looks like I got a pretty good amount most of the way, like at least halfway around it. little bit more to go here. So for a kind of a quick update on the computer situation, I think that the bearing completely just seized up because it's not squealing anymore. However, I do have a Mac Mini sitting right there, like ready to go, but the problem is I'm using a Windows machine right now, and it's just not as simple as being like, all right, let me just hook up my Mac Mini now. I've been kind of looking into it, and it just, the setup that I have is kind of a little bit of a hodgepodge kind of thing, and some things have changed a little bit over the years. So I need to buy some extra stuff and kind of change my setup. So it's going to be a little bit more of an involved change to just switch computers. And this is why I didn't do it a long time ago. However, it's not that hard. It's just the thing is I gotta make sure that I have all the correct components and things go together. And then after that, it's a matter of you got to get like your sound levels to where they're not clipping or they're not too low. And so there's going to be like a lot of testing that I have to do. The other thing is the video. There's different ways of hooking up a bunch of video cameras. The biggest problem I have right now is I have a webcam, is this one. And the problem is most of the way that I would like to kind of go with things with my new setup, that doesn't work. It doesn't work with the system. So it's like no matter which way I go, things are going to have to change. And I got to just kind of figure out which way is going to be either the most cost effective or the easiest for me to go, like the way that I want to do things going forward. So it's going to be a little bit, but luckily it seems like that computer hasn't exploded yet. So we're going to keep using it until I can get that Mac Mini hooked up and ready to go. 14 karat nugget, that'd be a good idea, yeah. Oh, the insert moved up. Oh, well, so the good news about that, if you do that, if the insert is sitting too close to on the cap one, if it's sitting too close, one easy way, and I don't know if you watched the video that Kate did, one thing that you can do is basically just the same idea as this, glue on something on the front, and that gives you actually, you can do this either way, but maybe even go for like a totally different color, like a black or something, where on the cap you'll have like a ring. So what you're doing is adding more material. Then you're gonna have to, kind of cut it off a little bit. But then you have like a little bit of a ring, and then you've extended that. So it's a little bit easier to fix that, I think, than this maybe. I don't know. This seemed to work. The problem is it was really hard for me not to get some UV resin on the brass stuff. It's pretty good. Like if this works out, if everything works and it turns okay and all that stuff, this was a pretty decent way to go. And I think it'll look all right. I don't think it's going to look terrible, but best thing to do is just really, if you have a set of calipers, and I did this, and that's why this led to problems. I over drilled. I knew that I was just a little bit under because the things weren't fitting. But if you've got calipers, you don't even have to buy super expensive ones or anything like that. Just something. Use this thing to check depth on your drill. Try not to get it in the middle because there can be like a little point, but try and hold it on the side of your, if you drill in once or twice, whatever, there's like steps. Hold it along the edge of the hole, and then that way you can kind of see how far did you go down in. And I think that's a good way to go. And like leave it on the lathe and double check your drill depths, because it's, if you're just sticking a Sharpie on there, they're wide, and even if you use I use like the thin tiny one, but it's still not a great way to go. And I just didn't drill all the way. You're like, oh, do I go to the front of the line or past the line? So double check your numbers, and before you move on and take it out of the chuck, try to, you know, nibble away. The problem was I did that and I was like, oh, I'm a little bit short. So then I went in there and like ramrodded it on accident, like went way too far. I mean, not that far, but you know, it was obviously enough to kind of screw things up. And I even screwed up the other side. It was just, I was kind of in a rush. Don't rush. I think that's really the plan. All right, so what did I use? I just used another blank. It's just resin, Alumilite. You could use anything, honestly. You could just use a piece of wood. I had a blank. I think this is actually part of the, I did a little bit of a test run. I know what this is. I did a test run just to make sure that I understood what I was doing. Like, so here's a little tip. I mean, this is what I did. So I got these kits, and I've done one in the past, and I watched the video, and I understood, and I saw the diagrams and all that kind of stuff. It still doesn't change the fact that doing it once, you're going to learn a lot more. So if you have a waste blank, just get, you know, whatever, pour something or something that you can just literally throw away if it doesn't work. That's what I did. I took I screwed up one of the Olympic blanks actually. So it was kind of a waste blank. And I just did kind of a dry run, drilling the different depths to make sure that those pieces fit the way that I thought everything was going to go. So I had a little bit of a blank left over, so I just used that. All right, I'm just going to hit this with a little bit more UV light for just a little bit. The best thing to do is just go stick this out in the sunlight for like 20 minutes. It'll fully cure then. It should be fine, but I'm just going to give it a little bit more time with this UV light. And I'm bummed. I don't know if you guys have, I haven't used it for a while, but I had this little nail curing machine and it doesn't work anymore. I don't know what happened to it. It was like a UV light thing. Totally broken, I guess. I don't know what happened. Because in the winter, or just on, you know, in the winter time, it gets dark early. So I don't even have sunlight sometimes when I'm trying to like UV light things. And I do have a curing station from the 3D printer stuff, but having like a dedicated UV curing light was nice, because I could just stick it under there for 20 or 30 minutes. Now I gotta buy another one. The costs just keep coming. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of, yeah, it's a little bit kind of gummy. I think it really does need a little bit more. So I think what we're going to do is, I would prefer to do this. I'm just checking the fit. So it definitely, I'm going to have to clean that up a little bit because it doesn't close, because I got, you know, kind of have a little bit of a bump. So that's not a big deal. But I think what I'm going to do is actually just stick this thing in my UV curing station for the 3D printer while we work on the cap. I would prefer, I kind of like doing the bodies first, just so I know kind of what the dimensions are and all that stuff. But I think we'll just stick this thing in the UV light. And I think that'll help get everything. I'm just going to run it for like 10 minutes. That should help. And it's like a rotating thing and all that stuff. So let's go over to the lathe and start working on the cap. Kate mentioned that the bushings, or I mean not the bushings, the mandrels, this outside thing acts kind of like a bushing. So I'm just going to go with their dimensions on that. And I'm going to go to that, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Go to this dimension, which is just a little bit thinner, I think. Let's see here. I want to mic these. Just double check. So the body mandrel is 12.28 millimeters. This one's 12.6. Well, that doesn't make any sense. 12 yeah, okay. 12.3. Okay, that doesn't, okay, I'm sorry. 12.6. You're looking at about a 0.3 difference reveal, which is about what I like to do on my pens, somewhere around there, a couple millimeters. So I'm just going to go to that size and work it like that. Everything should work out pretty good then. Let's see here. Her video, let me go grab it for you guys. I think I might have posted it in the description, because I basically just copied over the description from the last one. But where's the video link? Sent me. Nope. I'm going through an email stack. She sent me the link to the video. I can just look it up, but I thought this would be easier. I guess not. Okay, so let me go to YouTube here. I can find it real quick. It's pretty much the only video on her channel. And it's not under, under bow and harrow. So Kate's, well, their whole family kind of works there, but Bullseye is like they're selling blanks and stuff like that. And then somebody super chatted. I appreciate that. Michael DeQuattro, thanks, man. I appreciate it. So Bullseye is their like hardware and blanks and all that kind of stuff side, and then bow and harrow is Kate's finished pieces, like pens side, kind of. I think is how it works. So bow, and it's BOW and Harrow Workshop. But I'm gonna drop a link for you guys, so it's not a big deal. You don't have to remember all that stuff. I'll try to remember to put. I thought there was a video link in the chat. Depth drills. Oh, nice. That would be a lot easier. Use the parting tool and shove the insert down. Nice. That's the way to do it. I like that. Cool. Okay, so let's get over there and start turning. That's the wrong camera. There it is. Let's get to turning here. Let's see. I got my this and that and this. So hopefully this fix worked. You know, I think it'll do okay. I mean, it's not like I would be so disappointed in this pen because it had that little step. You know, I wouldn't sell it or something like that. I don't really sell a lot of pens anyway, but if I was trying to sell it, I would scrap it, or you know, probably wouldn't even use a fix necessarily. I don't know. If the fix worked, I mean, it doesn't really make any difference. No one's gonna know. But for myself, or like if it was just a gift, like nobody's gonna see it, hopefully. At that point, I don't really care. As long as it doesn't detract from the design or the use, especially for myself or for a gift, then I don't really care. If somebody's paying hard cash, I try to stay away from, I kind of fixed it. Those types of scenarios, if I can. You know, sometimes it's unavoidable. And if nobody's going to know, then it's not that big of a deal. Lots of people sell things that have been fixed. It's not that. It's just that was kind of blaring. And if I wouldn't have sold it as is, let's say. Okay, so let me get my YouTube. I'm all out of sorts here today. YouTube. Go to my channel and I can see one of the cool things is, so I'm going to be probably switching my streaming software. I use OBS right now and it's fine, and I'm sure there's ways to do what I'm about to tell you through it, but it's a little bit more hands-on. There's another one called, I can't think of the name. It's basically the same thing as OBS, but it has a few integrated things it's not Streamlabs OBS either, because that's pretty much exactly the same. It's got some good integration stuff in it, but Prism Live. It's got some really cool stuff in it. And one of the things is you can use your cell phone wirelessly as a camera. How about that? I'm like, yeah, I'll have some of that. I think you can do that with OBS, but you gotta like do some plug-in thing. I don't know. It's just not like easy, you know? I prefer easy when possible. All right, so can you guys see? Everything's good? Okay. I'm gonna crack this dust collector. Is a little bit louder than I really want in my ear. So I'm gonna crack the bottom just a little bit more, and I think I'm gonna crack another one. Just a little bit. There we go. Now that sound isn't so loud. Alright, so I got pretty much most of the wobble out of that extension part. Now we can go for our ocean. I'm just using a regular standard cutter. You can use negative rake. The one thing I will say about this though, I pretty much always use the standard cutters when I'm doing the kitless blanks. What ends up happening is there's just, it deflects more. There's more deflection happening compared to something that's been glued to a brass tube and then held on both sides very firm. Your normal standard kind of pen blanks, they don't flex at all, and they're usually really short. So even if you're like putting a decent amount of pressure right in the middle of this thing, because the point is this is going to cut more, but that's also the reason why you get catches that are pretty devastating with these standard cutters in resin, even in wood. If you get a catch, like they're more aggressive. The negative rate cutters, they pretty much eliminate, you know, that grab and like your blank's toast kind of thing, because it's got a negative rake on the edge. I don't know if you can see that or not. But the problem is because it's less aggressive, it's more of a scrape. And so when if you're turning a longer section of blank that it has more give, this is going to put more pressure on it than this. This is going to cut it quicker. The standard is going to cut it more, whereas this thing is going to kind of deflect it and scrape it more. So there's nothing wrong with the negative rake. They work great, but I just find that this is going to work a little bit better. You get a little bit less kind of that wobble, all that kind of stuff. So give it a shot with both. The standard cutters work fine on pen blanks anyway. It's just that the negative rate cutters eliminate the catch completely. So I usually use the negatives on kit pens, but I use the standard cutter more, well, pretty much all the time when I'm doing kitless. And even this, it's only being supported by a little bit on this end, and then just that 40 or the 60 degree cone over here. But there's a little bit more deflection that can happen with these things because they're longer and they're not glued onto something totally rigid. But you increase your risk of, a devastating catch. So I'm mainly just kind of going for straight as I can get. And then I'm going to add a little bit of a taper to the top. So this will be skinnier at the top of the cap when everything's said and done. So I'm going to need to pull out my calipers, see where I'm at. Alright, so that looked pretty smooth. The calipers don't lie though. And I got a little light over here just so I can see the thingy, the screen here. So we're at about 14.7, 15.2, 14 point, and about 15, 15.1. Not too bad. So I'm definitely skinnier down here, but just like the first half inch maybe at the most. So not too bad, it's pretty straight. I'm not the greatest at doing like straight lines, typically. I kind of tend to cut. I don't get as much in the middle. But I also kind of like that shape anyway, so I don't know if it's just a mental thing, where that's kind of what I'm going for anyway, usually. Alright, let's see what those numbers look like now. It doesn't have to be perfect, you know, but you'd kind of like to, you know, I'm going for like a taper, so I'd like to have this be, you know, 14 and a half or whatever it needs to be. What is this thing, 12 point something? I can't see the, yeah, like 12.6 or whatever. So you'd want to be somewhere around 12. I don't need to be dead on with that bushing thing. So I'm at about 14. That's got a little bit of a bump, and then it starts going down. So it's pretty close, but there is a little bit of a jig jog. So let's take some more off here. Now, one thing to keep in mind, the more that you take off, the thinner that this thing becomes, the more see-through it's probably going to be. We did add quite a bit of mica powder in there, but just kind of keep that in mind. I don't mind that. That's kind of one of the nice things. We don't have a tube in there, right? And so sometimes if you've been turning kit pens for like 50 years, your initial reaction to thin is like, or see-through, you're like, oh God, I gotta do something. I don't want to see the tube or whatever. But you know, with these kitless pens, you can do a lot more. Now you might need to clean up the insides then, and that can kind of become a hassle, but sand and polish the insides, that can be kind of a pain, but semi-translucent, see-through but not like clear. There's nothing to shy away from when you're doing these types of things. Okay. So this is going to be significantly smaller than the other one, you know, like diameter wise. I think that's pretty good. Still might be a little bit of a hump in there. Let's see where we're at. 13.5. And there's still a bit of a hump right there. All right, so from about here on, I need to kind of take it down. I think I'm going to call it quits before anything goes wrong. What do you guys think about that plan? Just walk away. Just walk away. Now, one other thing that I want to mention that is probably not a bad idea to get in the habit of doing with these. They're closed end, and so you have to think about it. And you know, this specific case is very important. If you nail the depths, if all your depths are dead on accurate for what the instructions say, for all the drill holes are exactly the right length, then it's not a big deal. You know exactly what that number is. But it's not a bad idea to, again, get your caliper, and I would do this before I glue in your components and all that stuff. Just double check and make sure, and then get your calipers and take a measurement. And in this time, what you want to do is you want to get into that center hole, because your drill bit's kind of angled, right? So the center is going to be a little bit deeper than the edges. But for flat surfaces, the edges are, when I was explaining how to stay on the side of that hole, that's for something that's like a flat edge and you need to butt up against the edge. That little indent is not going to affect anything for the inserts, but the indent is the full depth that you can, like, let's see here. So you got to double, so I need to know where I can part this off, basically. I don't know if I explained that at all in the right way, but I want to know where, you don't want to cut into this and have a hole on the end, basically. So I'm just double checking to make sure, especially in this case, because I screwed up the drilling. And there's a little bit longer holes and things in here. I want to make sure that I know where I need to part this off. So same thing with this one. Now, this one's fine. I know that at this top that, there's not a hole there. So I don't have to worry about the cap. But for this one, I definitely know I could only go down 80 millimeters. That was from the end of the blank. And I marked it on the blank. Now, don't mark a line because you're going to turn it off, Don't put a line on the blank itself. I'm going to quickly kind of do the heavier sanding real quick, and then I'm going to go in there and kind of part that thing off after we've gotten the bulk done. All right, so let me see what's going on here. Oh, tying flies, yeah. Yeah, you can use it for anything. I mean, like anything that you can think of that you would use for as like that you would use CA glue, super glue for, epoxy for, casting resin for, any of those types of things, it'll work. Now the thing is though, the only way that it cures is by getting that light to show, and you know this. The only way you can cure it is if you hit it with the light. So you can't, epoxy works better gluing tubes in and stuff like that. Like you're not going to use UV resin to glue in the tubes because you can't get the light in there to cure it. But anything else, it's like on the surface, definitely. All right, so let me go grab some gloves. Oh, I need to go. Yeah, this water bucket is absolutely disgusting. We're going to replace that. I'll get some gloves and then we'll start sanding this up. I'm going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to switch up I want to just play around with. I'm going to sand with the 600, and then I'm going to switch over to the Zona and just see how I feel about that. Because I've been using 600 and 1000 with the silicon carbide, the wet dry sandpaper. The one thing that I thought of where I think a bit of an advantage, 600 is great, and the silicon carbide paper, the black wet dry stuff, that stuff's great. I think it does a better job at smoothing out any bumps. It takes off a good amount of material, and it works great for like the 600, like the first grit. Where I think the Zona paper may be a little bit better is it's more flexible, you know? And so you can really get that, the higher grits, when you start kind of polishing it more than sanding. I think the Zona paper is gonna do a little bit better, but you know, this stuff is, I mean, it's flexible, but it's more rigid. The paper backing is just a little bit more rigid than the Zona stuff. So I thought, let's try this out. I'm gonna go, I think I'm gonna go up to the blue. I usually don't go all the way through Zona. I never did. I just dropped that. I liked using blue, then gray. A lot of times that's where I would stop, but I think we'll go to, green, gray. That's a must. I would definitely do that. And then I think I'm gonna go to the blue today, and then we'll hit it with the magic juice. I'm adding some steps. I just thought it'd be kind of cool to kind of do a little bit of playing around, try something new out. I guess it's not new. Try something old out, sort of. I like to kind of test different things out here and there. All right, so let me see what, yeah, no, I don't know when she's going to redo it. Honestly, that video, I mean, was it the greatest YouTube video I've ever seen? No, but it worked pretty good for me. All right, so we got our 600 grit here. Sorry, I was reading and slow that down. We'll use this to kind of do the bulk. Get those tool marks out. And so if you're kind of curious, I don't know if this is exact or whatever. I think we're talking about two different kind of grit grading scales, but this is 600, which is, I think, the, what is that scale? There's different scales. There's like an American scale, and then there's like a European scale for grit. I'm going to call it the P grit. I'm pretty sure these are the P, whatever that. That's what most of your sandpaper is. So that's 600 grit is what I'm using right now. And I tried to kind of look up. They give you the mic, or what is this stuff? The Zona stuff in microns. And I believe that the green is somewhere around 700, maybe ish. If you try to kind of convert that from microns to the P scale, so that just kind of, we're hitting it with 600, but this stuff is more aggressive than this for sure. I would say that's why it's a little bit questionable whether this is like 700 grit. Might be a little bit higher even than that. But I'm really liking the silicon carbide for that first step for sure. But let's see if we just go through, we're adding a few steps, but let's just kind of see how this thing looks, how I feel about it going through these 3 steps. Then we'll go to the magic juice, plastic polish. I think it's going to work pretty good. I always got good results with the Zona. I was just trying to be like, if I could just get away with doing 600 then 1000 and move on with my life, that sounds pretty good. But I've been noticing I'm getting a few more scratches here and there. Luckily, the magic juice takes care of the problems. I mean, you can see it if you put it under a microscope, but it doesn't distract from the shine. So I don't really care if there's a couple scratches if you pull out a loop, you know, that kind of thing. But so let's see what the Zona paper does. Like I said, we'll use the 600 to kind of establish our baseline, get it as smooth as possible. No, that's just the pearls kind of moving around in there. Okay, so we did that. Now let's move on to our Zona. Oh, dude. Yeah, I gotta be honest. This Zona, it's cheaper, it's faster, and as far as I'm concerned, it works better, personally. Now, I never liked those big pad things on there was no feedback, right? I never liked the micro mesh pads myself, and that's just a taste, you know, like a personal preference kind of thing. I think more than anything, but Zona does sell paper, but the problem is, so they kind of sell a somewhat similar product to the Zona. The problem is you get this pack and there's like 9 different whatever, you know, grit levels, and they're all different shades of gray. Like you can't just pick one up and be like, oh, this is this. So when you're cutting it and you would get 8.5 by 11 sheets, you have no clue. You'd have to write the grit on every. It's basically like the same thing as silicon carbide, which is all just gray. You have no clue which one's which. So, and frankly, I think Zona works better, and that's what a lot of people have said that have switched. There still are some diehard Zona or micro mesh people out there, but I don't know. Like you said, I'll take 6 grits instead of 9, and it does the same exact job. So right there, you're saving time, but it is cheaper. So, okay, there's no drawback. It's got colors. Now, if you buy the pads, you know, but an 8.5 by 11 sheet of this stuff will go a lot farther than those pads. That was another problem I had with the pads, is I'd wreck them quick. Now, I used those a long time ago though, but still, they can kind of get messed up fairly quick if you're not, you know, keeping an eye on things, especially with certain materials. So yeah, I think you'll like the Zona. It's pretty good. I don't know anybody that is like, no, that Zona is terrible. Like nobody has like flat out said that kind of, you know, review to me anyway. So that's good. Like I said, there's still a few people that are like, yeah, I tried it. It was fine, but I'll stick with my Zona or my micro mesh. Okay, so we got our green. Let's go on to our gray. I think we could probably stop after the gray. However, I'm just going to go up to the blue, and that should be more than enough to start. Again, I don't know exactly what grit we're talking about here. You can definitely start using the magic juice once you hit like 1,000 to fit somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500. That's plenty to start with step 1. This, I believe, was about, I wrote it down. Like I said, I don't know if the conversion that I found is really that great. So gray was around 1350 on the P scale, and then blue is 1750. So I don't know. I don't exactly know if that's correct or not, but the one thing I know for sure is you can definitely start using green after 600. So it's definitely finer than 600, and it's not too far away from 600 that you can't, that it's like too much of a gap. So I know that for sure. So that kind of tells me that the green is under 1,000, because that would be a pretty high gap, I think. 600 to 1,000 with a different type of paper. It would be noticeable, and you'd have to spend a lot more time, I think, to get the scratches out. And then obviously the gray is somewhere higher than the green, and then blue is definitely higher than gray. So I don't know. I got to be honest, guys. I think this is looking better than I typically get. Now I may be spending a little bit more time on this. I'd have to do this a few times to say, yeah, that definitely is different, or better, or worse, or whatever. But it's looking pretty good. I don't think the green is, oh, 800. Hey, there's Kate. What's happened? I screwed up. Have you been watching? I screwed up the stupid glue in. Well, screwed up the drilling first. We're okay. Everything's okay. I think I maybe salvaged things, but I'm an idiot. I was rushing. Okay, so that ought to be good. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I really think that looks better than I usually get going 600 to 1,000. Even the 600, 800, 1,000. And part of the reason why I wanted to try something different is, again, the 1,000 grit paper is, I don't know. This is another one of those things where the feedback that I'm getting in my fingers, I don't like with the 1,000 grit. It feels scratchy almost to me. It's too rigid. And so I'm like, you know what? I think I want to switch back and try. Now I could maybe just, try like the gray or something like that, but I thought it'd be better to, again, use 600 as like that, get all the junk out, and then just do, one or two, maybe two or three grits of the micro mesh, because that stuff always worked really well for me. And that felt better to me. I don't know. We'll have to see. I don't know if I did this or not. We're going for a skinny pen. I usually like the fat pens, personally. I was talking to Kate. But I kind of screwed things up on the body side, so I'm just going to go. I was kind of just basically going off of the little bushing type thing at the end. I usually like kind of, oh yeah, I think that's going to be better. So I might have to recommend it. I think you could probably even get away with just doing 600. I still think that if somebody's going to ask me what should you start sanding with, I really think you should pull 400 or 600, depending on your how many like tool marks and stuff. I really think you should start with the 400 or 600 silicon carbide. It just takes out more stuff. It works better than like just trying to start with like the green. That's not going to work. Almost no matter how many, if you have a skew and you're getting a perfect thing, then, you can, that's a different story maybe. If you're that good at turning, you're probably not asking me what sandpaper to use though. But, as long as you get a pretty reasonably not, really divoty, tool marky blank, if you can get a pretty smooth surface, I really think the 600 is a great place to start, but I don't know. I think this Zona paper is really better. I can just see, and my eyesight is terrible, and it's like a noticeable difference than just jumping from 600 to 1,000, or even what I was doing was I started trying the 800 because I was, like I said, there was just scratches popping up, and I'm like, wasn't a problem, but it could be a problem on certain things. Funny. Oh, there's a Zona. There's a Zona person. Have you tried the Zona, not micromesh, sorry. I don't know. I got all these words mixed up in my head. One of those micro mesh people. Okay, so step 1, magic juice. Yeah, but micron doesn't tell me anything about sandpaper. I don't like that micron scale. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Just, personally, because I don't know. I know what 600 grit sandpaper or 1,000. I know what that feels like, you know, or what kind of a surface I'm going to get. But when you say microns, 2 microns, okay, I just don't have a, that doesn't register. It's like metric stuff with me. I still, even though I really think that the metric system is so much easier to use, I still don't know what 19 millimeters really is. 3/4 is much easier for me in my brain, you know. Oh yeah, that's looking pretty snarky right there. Woo! Is that a word, snarky? Making up words. All right, step 2, everybody's favorite, the one that gets caught. I don't think I'm going, yeah, I'm going fast enough. Here it comes. Here it comes. Hey Kate, you use magic juice, right? Does number 2 always grab on you? I swear this stuff just grabs the paper towel out of my hand half the time. Unless I'm really like paying attention. It means really flipping high. Nice. It's a word. Stefan, how's it going? Anybody else joined in the fun? 600, 800, 1200. Then magic. That's a good, I think that's a good one right there. Yeah, the 1000 grit paper that I have, it's stiff and it doesn't conform to the blank. And so what I'm thinking is it's either gouging a little bit because it's stiff, or I'm just not even hitting the surface because it's kind of like angled off. That's how it feels to my fingers. And it's leaving scratches, so I don't know what's causing that. And it's not a lot. I mean, it works fine. It's been working fine for a while for me, but you know, I'm looking at it and going, you know, maybe if I switch back to the not micro mesh, Zona, maybe I wouldn't be finding these little treasure scratches at the end going, eh. Nobody likes seeing a scratch at the end, you know? Grabs and makes the biggest difference. Yeah, I don't like the color either. That's funny. So yeah, it's sticky. Yeah. I don't know what the deal is with that one. Am I on the right numbers here? What's going on? I don't feel like I'm on the right number. I think we're on 4. I was about to do 5. Let's do 4. I don't think it's advisable to skip steps. Getting ahead of myself there. Yeah, 3 and 4. Pleasure. It's a pleasure to wipe it all over, and it's nice and slippery. That number 2 though, well, I mean really every other one but 2. Not my friend. It's ripped more paper towels out of my hands than I'd like to admit. Okay, so we got 4. Now we can do 5, because that's how the number system works. And then 5 is like super slippery. And I always put too much on. But it's kind of fun. Yeah, guys, I'm telling you, this is, I can just see the gloss coming off this thing already. And I think that I did a way better job sanding this than I've been doing on many of the pens that I've been making for a long time here. So I think we're, you know, that's what happens. You try and shirk your duties, your sanding duties, being like, oh, I'm just going to do 600 and 1,000. Nope. Nope. It's not working. I frankly don't even think that I needed to do the blue Zona. I think that I probably could have just done the gray and the green and called it a day. But that's a test for another time. I think I'm going to try that on the body. Okay, so let's take a look at this thing and see what we got. It's looking pretty blue, that's for sure. Oh, I didn't, oh, shoot. This is, see, I forgot to part it. Why didn't anybody tell me in the chat? Just kidding. All right, so let's get this guy in here. Detail tool. You know, there's a lot of really cool tools. I'm really loving the detailer, especially, and this is one where I use the negative. I really think that if you're going to do the detailer tool on resin, I really don't think that the standard cutter is even worth pulling out ever. The negative rake on this thing is just amazing. Love it. I don't think it was ready yet. Now another tool, if you have the budget, so this is like their CI4, whatever, the mini guy. And this thing's awesome, it's the greatest thing ever. But if you can afford the CI7, this thing has like a super sharp point, and you can really get in there with this thing. It's a little bit wobbly there. And nibble down. Look at that. Boom. I love that one too. But that one's not necessary. That one's just fun, you know? We got to do a little bit of sanding on the end there. Get this water cup out. So let's see here. I know we were talking about sanding, having such a good time with the sanding discussions. And I'm like, oh yeah. Don't forget, thanks. Thanks, Myra. A little wobbly at this point. That's okay. Okay. Let me take a look at this real quick. Yeah, that's looking good. It's amazing. The ends goes, it's like it moves slower, but it seems to like the center of a cylinder spins at like a slower rate than the outside part, but it always takes like way less time to sand up the end of things like this. I guess it's just a really small area, but usually just kind of slam through it. It's not a bad idea on the ends to do to stop it, and similar to how we do kind of a lengthwise sanding, I kind of like to just stop it and not have those round, the ring, what do you call that, radial circular scratches on the ends. I think that really helps to kind of get it polished quicker, to make sure even if you had some scratches, it's going to look worse if there's a bunch of circular things on the end there. Just kind of stick out like a sore thumb. Better to just kind of have a couple, if there's going to be any, just have them kind of a couple here and there going across it. Okay, and then we'll finish with our blue. Now I got to do the whole the whole thing of polish again. Okay, step one. I'm going to speed this one up a little bit faster again because we're on the end and things going a little bit slower in that zone. Definitely don't need much. Oh, got all over. Okay, step one. Step two, not so grabby on the end. That's always nice. Oh yeah, the white could have made a feature. I didn't even think about that. I guess I didn't really want to interrupt. I want to see what this, beach theme thing looks like in its raw form first. Then we'll embellish. I'm really anxious to see, I don't know, like I said, at one moment I'll look at that kind of tan sand, yellowish color, and it'll not look good. I'll be like, oh, screwed that up, and then I'll look at it again and I'm like, yeah, that's not that bad. It's like a really weird one. Usually I'm like, I may like not have a problem with it the first day, and then I'm like, oh no, I screwed that up. This one's a weird one. It depends on how I'm looking at it, how I feel about that color. I still don't think, I'll still totally admit, I don't think that that's the best sand color, period. That it's, it can be improved on for sure, but how much I don't like it changes depending on my mood or something. I don't know. All right, step 5. I'm just going to put a little drip, hopefully, if I can get it to. Just don't need that much with the 5. A little bit goes a long way. Yep, still overdid it. And step 6, I need to find a new blue towel. Whoa! I got plenty. Yeah, I really like, I mean, even just doing this polishing, because, you know, I'm kind of getting those lower polish grits down on the length of this thing, you know, at least a little ways. So I got to kind of put some pressure on it. And it's like, especially how thin this ended up, there's just not a lot of strength in it. There's a lot of bend if I push too hard. And that's how you snap things off. So I really like having that support as long as possible, but it makes it a pain. You know, you're kind of doing double duty. All right, so let's see how I did here. I'm going to kind of clean off the end. I'm kind of digging this. I usually don't make very small pens, and I like this. And I'll tell you what, guys, that finish, I mean, okay, so I'm going to pull out the raking light and everything, and I'm going to pull out my readers so I can actually see, because I'm going blind daily. I mean, it's flawless. There isn't a scratch. I don't know if you guys, are you guys even looking? So I like to use this super bright light, and then I like to get it to where I can angle it to where that light is just bouncing off, and it, you know, if you get it in at the right angle, like, it'll show every single scratch. And I mean, there isn't one. There is not one scratch on there. Let's look at the end. I mean, even, and you know, it's not like I spent a lot of time on the end. There may be a couple scratches on the end here. But I mean, overall, I think we're gonna have to just keep on going with the Zona papers, because that worked out great. And it's not very see-through at all. Well, I guess there's a black cap thing. I forgot about that. So there is hardware in there that's black already. It's see-through down at the end. There's some transparency down at the end, but I mean, it's fine. It doesn't really look any different though. So now we need to go and do a little bit of work on this thing to clean up my boo-boos. So again, it won't close because I had to blob on some UV resin right there. So it, you know, like the cap won't close on there. So I'm gonna have to, you know, come in and nibble away that excess. Not first. I'm gonna, you know, obviously turn the pen down first. I'm guessing that this bushing is probably the same diameter. We're gonna pull out some more calipers, guys. I'm gonna do some investigative journalist work. I got another Apollo, and I'm gonna see what the deal is here. I'm sure Kate can just tell me, but so what I'm gonna do is we're gonna measure that outside little ring thing versus the bushing, or the, you know, I keep saying bushing, but bushing type thing on the mandrel. That's about 12.3, 12.28 technically. Let's see what this that ring is on the Apollo kit. Slippery little devil. Well, that's thinner. Okay, so I'm gonna have to come in and do a little bit of surgical work. Not a big deal, but I want to trim that stuff away on the end there. So it's, did you guys, I don't know if I told you. So that little collar type thing is 11.26 on the Apollo. This bushing, which makes sense. It has to be a little bit thinner so it goes in the cap. 12.28. Just a nice thing to know before I go into this. Because if I just assumed that they're the same number and I just nibbled that down and went, that would not be good, basically. Which it makes sense now that I think about it. Yeah, it's the mandrels. You have to buy the mandrels. There's one for the Apollo and one for the Artemis. Put that mandrel over there. It's a 3/8 mandrel, so you'll want to have a collet chuck. You could probably get away with a 4-jaw chuck. I find those to be less, I don't know, the collet chucks just run truer, easier. You can fiddle with a 4-jaw chuck and you'll get it running true, but collet chucks just work a lot better, and it's going to work a lot better for drilling and stuff too. Holding when you're drilling round blanks, it just works way better than a 4-jaw chuck because you have more points of contact. It doesn't slip or anything, so that's also nice. All right, so we got everything set up. I'm going to get my little ShamWow out of the way. Find my glasses. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to come in with the, well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure again. Just double check my measurement. Because I was messing around. I messed up the drilling. And so I just want to double check. Find the very lowest center point. So about 85 minimum, 85 millimeters. But that's fine. That's plenty of room for me to drill in with the center drill. I just wanted to double check and make sure that I've got enough room. And that's 85 from the brass, from the actual kit part. I think it's 80 from the blank. Free if you buy 4 more. Oh man, I like that. Okay, so, oh, that's pretty wobbly, guys. Woo. Oh man. Oh, I think I know what happened. Because I had to re-drill it and it was like off. Try not to screw up the drilling. Really focus on your drilling part and everything will come out perfectly fine. It's not a big deal. I just got a little bit of a wobble blank. But I am going to have to be a little bit more careful. You got to kind of watch out. You don't want to come in and take too much material off when it's wobbling like that. It's a good way to blow up a blank. Okay, so I'm going to turn on my dust collector. I'm going to try to ease my way into this. All right, so we got it pretty much rounded out. Oops, got a little aggressive there. A lot of material to take off, so I'm not going easy on it. All right, so now I'm gonna go in there and do my surgical cleanup, quote unquote, trying to get that end just nibbled away. I'm gonna have to pull out like the magnifying headset thing to do this. So another, and I'm gonna actually go and find the link to this, because I think that this is the thing that a lot of people should probably have. So many times where this really becomes useful. So let me go see if I can find a link. I got it on Amazon. A while ago. Nice. And it's cheap. So that's the even best part. All right, so dropping a link here and I'll show you what this is in a second. Actually, I'm gonna show you on this camera so I don't have to mess around with that other one. So these things are great. You gotta get fairly close, so I'm gonna have to get my head stuck right by the lathe, but I'll tell you what, there's so many times when you're doing very small detail things, like especially if you're doing like the rings, you know, where you're dropping little bits in and UV lighting it, stuff like that, anything that's detail work, it's a good thing to have. So that's the link to these guys. Like, I think they were 16 bucks. I mean, I feel like I'm ripping them off at that price. And I'm also going to be wearing my safety glasses as well. I might have to find a different pair if this doesn't really fit right, but all right, so that should work okay. And what I'm going to do, well, let's see here, how am I going to do this? I guess I'll go with the detailer. Almost rather go with a square. I've got a little mini square one. Is it square? No. I thought I had a super tiny square one. I don't really like that too much. The only problem I have with the detailer is you got to watch out. It's like on an angle, so you got to watch how you're coming in a little bit. But I think that'll work fine. I could also use a parting tool or something, but I think this will do. Problem is, I can't get my head close enough without covering the light and all that stuff. So we're going to switch to the readers. That's actually, that's fine. I think I'm kind of chewing up this brass, but at least it's solid brass. I'm going to take one more little cut. Very polished. So for anybody that doesn't know what I was doing, I had to fix an error. The piece didn't get glued in all the way because I screwed the drilling operations up. And so I'm just going to kind of give you an idea of what happened. So just imagine this was the blank. What ended up happening was there was a gap because this piece didn't get pushed clamped all the way down, so there was like a gap, and I filled the gap. It had been glued in there, you know, but I filled the gap with some UV resin, but I got some on that little lip. So I just cut that off a little bit, and I think it's gonna be fine. I probably could have left it and nobody really would have cared, but I'd rather try to get this as, you know, perfect as possible. Okay, so now we can switch back to what we were doing. Sweet. Okay, so I kind of overdid it. I was telling you that you don't really know what, you know, if you pour 3 colors on top of each other, the outside of the blank doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. Well, I ended up cutting off quite a bit of the orange or yellow, you know, sand part, and keeping all the blue, but I mean the whole cap is blue, and we're running out of beach over here, you know. A little bit, because I'm gonna have to cut that off a little. I might end up just keeping it longer, you know, than I normally would, probably, but yeah. We lost our beach, but it looks pretty good right now. I don't know, like I said, it just depends on when I look at this thing. Sometimes that tan color is like mustard, and then sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's beachy. That could be a beach. Now I'm not sure if you can hear, but there's a little bit of a feedback chatter when you get to the middle, because it has more flex when you're right in the middle. So sometimes you don't want to take a huge cut in the middle. It's not being supported very well, and it can flex. And that's another way that you can kind of snap a blank or get some weird chattering going on. So let's see here. Still got a ways to go. I need to go to that bushing depth because we did that on the cap. So we don't want the body bigger than the cap. I think that would look kind of funny. But I don't know, so let's see here. I'm better at just pulling calipers out and figuring out what's going on. We were a little bit wider than that bushing thing. So we were more like closer to 13 millimeters on the bushing thing, so I need to be definitely under that. Can't see. So we're at 13.4. So we need to be really kind of 12 and a half on that end. Another thing is, the thinner you go, that middle becomes even more chattery. So just be you know, if you've never done something like this where it's really only being held on one end and, you know, a little bit of support on the other, but it's just the resin. The resin just can flex a lot more than wood. Wood's got way more tensile strength, so it doesn't tend to bend. Double check and see where we're at again. Oh, perfect. 12.4. That might have actually gone a little too far. I think we're there. We got a little bit of a, yeah, so it goes, we're about 12 and a half. And it does kind of flare out a little bit. So I think what I'm going to do is take this down a little bit. I don't mind having a little bit of flare on this pen. I think straight is a little bit, I don't know, looks a little nicer, and then a taper, but we're going to have a little bit of flare. A little bit more taper. Might have been too much taper. That's okay. I think it looks pretty good. Ooh. We got a lot of shallow in the body. Shallow water. I'm going to pull you guys around. What do you guys think about this so far? Get you up close and personal with this beachy pen. I kind of like it. Again, it's off. It's not exactly perfect, but it's really not that bad. I mean, it's so close. It just needed to be like a little bit lighter, I think. We'll see. We'll see once we get it all polished up. Just, I think it's not that bad. Definitely got some sparkle to it. Yeah, it wasn't glue. I screwed up, and I actually added UV resin to cover a gap between the blank and the. So I did that on purpose, basically. I did clean off all the glue and everything. That was fine, but yeah, you definitely when you're gluing it up, make sure to clean off the glue on the front of that thing. But if you leave a gap, you might have to do what I just did. It looks okay. I mean, whatever. You know, I made a boo-boo, but I don't think it's really that big of a deal. I mean, there's definitely no gap anymore. So it did its purpose. The only issue is it's kind of like a solid blue line where there wasn't. I thought there was going to be some blue in there, and there really wasn't. So just a little bit right there, but it's kind of a solid blue. Like there's definitely a line there. That's the only thing that it's kind of like. I don't think anyone would even notice, but I know what it is, so I'm like, not my best work. Not my best work. Okay, so we're going back to the 600 grit. Make sure that's what it is. I kind of like this thin pen though. Like I said, I tend to usually make larger pens, and that's usually what I kind of prefer personally to use. But I'm digging this. This is cool. And so that's kind of the nice thing also about these kits. You can make, you know, a thin pen like this. I mean, this is almost like slimline status right here. But you don't have to use this bushing as a guide if you don't want to. You know, I did that on the Olympic pen. I just chose my own numbers for the most part, and you know, made it as wide as I wanted to. The only thing is you got to think about how one is going to affect the other. You know, the cap and the body. Again, I'm pretty sure that having a thicker body would look pretty silly. I'm trying to think of how that would actually look, but yeah, it'd be pretty silly to do that. So you don't want to do that. You just want to make sure you've got, you know, those numbers, but you can do whatever you want. You can do it however you want it. You can have it your way, just like the BK Lounge. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Do a little bit of this number. Now we're going to go to our green Zona paper. I think I'm going to wipe that off. That's something else that I did last time. I think I wiped off between the 600 grit and the Zona. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but we're just going to keep everything pretty much the same here. Yeah, that doesn't help me now. Thanks, Kate. Yeah, I made a boo-boo though. What happened was I drilled, I marked, I was like on top of everything, but I was kind of rushing a little bit, and then I like to double check the depth measurements, you know, with the little caliper thing that you stick, you know, you can measure the depth of the hole. Just to make sure, I just like to double check and make sure, you know, I'm kind of, it saves you usually from hassle. Well, I found that it was off, and then I drilled and I like totally went way past. All I needed was just a little bit, and I didn't feel the edge with the drill bit, and I went way too deep. I mean, it wasn't like an inch, but luckily I pulled back when I did, but totally screwed up and had to like remount the blank, and which made the holes wider. You're much better off if you just nail it on the first shot. Just nail it. Okay, that ought to be good. A little bit of this. And this time though, we're going to stop at the gray and see how that does. Stop at gray zona and then switch up to the magic juice. See if we get the same flawless effect. Kind of thinking we're going to be able to. So in effect, I kind of started using the 800 and then 1000 anyway. So this doesn't change anything, but I think it's giving me better results. That was why I wanted to try, you know, go back to the Zona paper and try that out. And I think that it's going to get you better results. I really think that the problem was the 1000 grit silicon carbide. It just, the paper backing somehow doesn't work as well for polishing this type of thing. It's great if you're sanding a car, maybe. I don't know. I think Zona would probably do better if you're sanding a car too. Yeah, be perfect always. It works way better if you're just perfect every time. Nail it every time. Trust me, that's the way to do it. I think the big thing is don't rush. There's never been a person on the planet that's like, you know what might help is if you rushed a little bit. Have you thought about rushing it a little bit? I mean, that'll really help out. Okay, so let me go get a blue towel. That thing's looking pretty darn good again. I'm gonna wait till the end though, because that's, you know, all those little pesky scratches, they come out not after the Zona, they come out after the step 6 of the polish, the magic juice. That's the worst. You get through the whole thing and then get it all perfectly polished, it's all shiny, and then you look and then there's like some scratch comes out of nowhere that you didn't see, and you're like, ugh. Okay. So I really like using, for anybody that's kind of new to the stream, I like using the blue towels versus, and I don't know about different brands, but these are Bounty, the white ones, and these are way more rough, abrasive basically. I don't polish with the white paper towels. But I find these are fine. We've done a bunch of testing. I've tried different things, microfiber and messing around with all kinds of different things. And frankly, I don't really think that there's nothing wrong with this. There's no need to get special applicator pads. Okay, so step 1. Maybe need a little bit more. This one's a little bit longer. Just add a little bit more. Make sure we get it nice and covered. I think your step 1 is kind of your most important. I mean, the transformation that happens between wherever, and it almost doesn't matter. I mean, I guess if you went all the way through Zona papers, I don't know why you'd be using magic juice in the first place, but like if you went way, way high, you know, like the surface finish would be like polished already. But if you stop somewhere around 1000, and then you hit it with this step 1, the transformation, I mean, like, frankly, I have literally seen people's finished pens that are less glossy than just step 1 with Magic Juice. I'm just like, man, all you need is the step 1 and your pens will be even better. If you get all 6, they're going to be brilliant, you know. So I think that your step 1 is probably your most important polish to get things going good. I don't know, what do you guys think? I mean, literally you could stop after step 1 if you wanted a semi sort of glossy pen. That's what you're going for. That would be a cool company. Sort of glossy pens. We do half the work and charge you half as much. Step 2. Anyone want to take odds that it'll grab on me? I've been doing pretty good, but see, I think one thing that I've figured out, I did this upside down. When I hold the paper, like, oh, it didn't grab, guys. Wow. But when I hold the paper with I fold it up and with these little fuzzies, like if I hold it this way, the nice folded edge, usually it doesn't grab as much. It's still grabby, but I don't know, I don't think that I've lost as many paper towels getting actually wrapped up on the thing, doing it that way. All right, so I need to, I think I'm going to stop and part the, well, no, I'm going to go through and polish all this stuff. This is even longer, so I still like having that tailstock support most of the way through, especially for most of the thing, and then, you know, you just get a little bit on the end. That's not a big deal. You can be careful on the end. But I am going to pretty much polish it, do what we did last time. Go through the whole thing and then have to redo it at the end. There's just nothing worse than like losing the pen on the polishing steps, like at the end. Like I'm not, like if I blow a blank up like right away, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. If you blow it up or something happens to it at the very end, oh, that's when tools are being thrown and choice words are being thrown as well. I always hold my breath at the end. Don't screw up. Don't screw up. Be perfect. All right, we're on step 5. Getting things going. I know, you're so heavily invested, you're like ready for it to see like the final, you know, all your hard work, and then it just blows up and you're just like, oh, way too much. Step 5. I mean, just way too much. That's just going to be a mess. We're going to tame that a little bit. Turn it down a notch. Okay. Still think it's maybe too much, but that's okay. Oh yeah, that's definitely too much. It's going to get step 5'd to death. All right, and then step 6, and then we get to see what the results are. So the big question is, can you get away with stopping at gray? The gray zona? I'm very curious about this. Pretty sure you can, because I did that forever. It would vary though. Sometimes you would still get scratches, but that's why I switched to the 600 grit silicon carbide paper. Because if you didn't start off good, if there was some scratches that because back then I started at 400 grit Abernet. And that's why I switched to silicon carbide. I really think that it works better than Abernet. Abernet's good, and it worked great, but silicon carbide has a more closed grit, and I think it just works faster with a higher grit level. All right, let's get you guys in here. See what this thing looks like. I'm excited. Okay. It's very glossy. Now with the polish, see, I'm telling you, it depends on how the light hits that. It's not bad, but I would say that it's a little bit worse. I still need to part this off, I know, but I just wanted to kind of stop it. I really do like this, though. This is looking pretty good. If this was just like a hair lighter, it would have been perfect. All right, so we're going to pull out the detailer, part off the end, and then we'll do just a quick sanding on the very end there, and we'll be good to go. Pretty good work. And I'll get you a closer kind of view of that fix so you can kind of see what that looks like. It's not bad. I mean, especially if you compare how it looked before with a gap to how it looks now. Now it looks like a finished pen. Before it was like trash, kind of, I mean, really, I didn't want that. Too far. That's okay. I think I'm gonna have to do a little bit of sand shaping on the end there. I kind of left a hard edge on the corner there. I think the 600 grit will take care of it, but I got a little aggressive there. Dropping it on the nib, that's the worst. All right, so back to the 600 grit. Like I said, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of work getting that edge kind of rounded over. I don't like sharp edges. I didn't really want to sit there and mess that. That gets a little bit problematic with a tool. Like, you really got to hold the blank, make sure it's not flexing too much and all that. And I just don't want to really deal with that, so we'll just use sandpaper and get the same effect without the possibility of crying at the end. All right, so that should be probably pretty good. A little bit of this. Yeah, that feels a lot better. And I'll continue to work on it even with the Zona on that corner. It'll get even more smoothed out. Okay, and gray. All right, that should be good. And then we'll have to go back to our magic juice one more time. Takes longer, but you definitely have less problems. At least I do. To go get some more blue towel. Man, it is definitely lunchtime. I'm hungry. Whew. I mean, really, it's kind of past lunchtime, but. Oh, I dropped some blue towel. Luckily, I only need 6 pieces. Ooh, that one's spinning nicely. Look at that. Okay, number 1 done. Oh, I think I did that wrong. That was step 3. Let's do step 1 instead. I had the tub backwards. I was like, this kind of feels funny. Oh yeah, the faux cigar. So all right, so now I'm gonna have to get another piece of blue. I wasted one. Dang it. Huh, I didn't get the whole. I didn't notice that. I didn't get the whole thing out. The nice thing about these is if you need to go back and do something, you can do that. What the heck? What is that? Oh, that's polish in there. I didn't get the whole. I didn't cut it off deep enough. I don't want to take too much more of that sand off though. Dang it. All right, so You can go two ways with this. You can be like, oh, it's handmade. Who's used that line before? The flaw, oh, no, it's not a flaw. That's handmade. I think I'm going to take it out because I don't really like to be like, oh, it's handmade. So we're going to have to go back to the detailer. Dang it. I didn't notice that. I really thought that I had taken enough off. Okay, so unfortunately we got to go back to the 600 now. Start all over again, but now we can tell people that it's machine made and therefore perfect. Still a little bit of a dimple in there, I think, but that other one was like deep. And I really didn't like that. One thing we don't need is the dust collector anymore, though. What am I doing here? Okay. Just wipe that off. And then we'll switch up to our green. I don't know what number it is. Okay. Luckily, this end thing, the sanding and all that stuff, the only thing is you still got to go through all 6 polishing steps, but the sanding goes really quick. That's nice. Okay, now let's go back to our magic juice. Gotta get more blue towels. We're almost there. Almost crossed the finish line. Luckily, this isn't a kitless pen and I still have a section to make. Ugh. The dreaded section. Has anybody blown up a section while you're turning it? Those things are wily. Where did the, oh, there it is. Okay, so I'm going to arrange these in the right order this time. Step 1. Also going to wipe this off. Okay. It's a feature of the process. Oh, I dropped my step 1. Then I dropped my blue towel. Jeez. I don't want to use that one. It could have dust and chunks. Do not like dust chunks in my magic, or yeah, magic juice. Number 2. Dreaded number 2. Okay. So close. All right. 4. Two more. You're almost there. Final step. I don't really feel like I got enough there. Okay. All right. Are you ready to see this thing finished up? Hopefully I didn't screw anything else up that I don't even know about. Jeez. Let's get you guys in. Kind of like that. The cap over here. Okay. Ooh. Yeah, the beat, I mean, it's, like I said, it's just a little bit, it looks pretty good. But every time I look at it, it changes. The beach part. This time it looked good. Last time I was like, yeah. Time before that I was like, yeah, pretty good. I mean, it's not too bad. It gets the idea, right? It's not overly ridiculous. Definitely has that sparkle. Do you guys see the sparkle? I like that macro sparkle. That's pretty good. I like the idea of using the 14 karat nugget. That would be a good way to go too. So, let's gotta zoom out here. Hold on. There we go. Let me look at, I gotta look at the finish on this thing. See how we did here. Problem is, there we go. I'm looking at it down here. Yeah, I think you could probably just stop at that gray. Let me get my good glasses on. We got to do it over here. Get the right angle. Yeah, I still don't see any scratches in this. I don't know. One thing about it though, lighter colors are harder to see scratches. I'm not really surprised, but I'm not seeing anything. I don't know. I think we're good. So bottom line, I think that what's that stuff called? The Zona is, I'm sticking with that. 600, and then I'm going Zona, full tilt. But I think you're good to go with just green, and then where's the components here? Just the green and the gray. I think that's plenty. If you want to do blue, fine. You know, I don't think you need to go any higher than that though. So I'm going to pull all the parts. Let's put it together over at the desk over here. The lighting isn't as necessarily good, but that's okay. And toss this. Oh, the UV resin cured up in that little cup, which is funny. What's this? Okay, so let me get all my pieces out of the way here. So the kit comes with, you can either go with a converter or just the cartridge. I like the converters better. The cartridges are super easy though. You don't have to mess around with loading ink and doing all that stuff, but I have ink, so I'd rather just choose my own adventure that way. And then we got our nib and our, the section piece. So it comes, one thing that I really like, where did I put, did I throw it away? The nibs come covered. I think I threw it away. Anyway, the packaging is great. The nibs come covered so they're not going to get messed up during transit. And then the little section piece, so we're going to stick our nib in there. We could stick the section on the body first, but I don't think it really matters either way. And then one other tip, and I mentioned this last week, I tend to get, I don't think about what's exactly going on with some of the gluing, and I get glue all over the place on the insides. You may need to kind of come back with a drill bit and just kind of clean it out afterwards. Again, before you start gluing stuff in and doing whatever, make sure that all your components have enough room in them to work, that it'll fit the converter and everything. If there's something stopping it, it's probably glue. All right, so just go in there, clean it out, and you're good to go. But there it is. That, man, I don't know, guys. That's looking pretty good. I like that a lot. It's simple. I mean, there's not a lot going on, but that's a nice looking pen. What do you guys think? I'm happy with it. What do you guys think about the sand color? Is it too much? Like, is it like bad too much, or is it like, yeah, it's really close, but it's not right? That's kind of how I feel. Like, it's really close to a sand color, but I think the other issue is the color itself would probably be okay if there was like a little bit of variation like you would have with mica powder. You know, mica's just, there's a little variation in the hues. So if it was the same tone, but mica powder would probably be okay. Another thing you could do maybe is like add mica powder. I don't know if you would need to do that, but you could add some mica instead of, you know, that micro or the macro sparkle. That's not really a mica powder. It's like more of a glitter, you know, so it's not going to give you that kind of pearly look. It's going to be kind of a blingy kind of glitter kind of thing. Yeah, I like that. Feels good. This might be what I signed my order letters with. Not bad. I don't know if this is the greatest like ocean or a beach blank that has ever been dreamt up, but I think it's close. It's in the ballpark. Definitely looks like what I was going for. I think there could be a few tweaks here and there. So for the folks that are in the pen blank club, we got these guys. The question is, so let me look in the chat here and see what you guys think. Seems too yellow. Yeah, well, I'm not arguing that. I'm not saying like, oh yeah, this is perfect. It's definitely not the right color, but is it like bad yellow or, and I don't know. The problem is, you know, you guys are on cameras. You're looking at it on the screen. I go back and forth. It looks okay sometimes and then it doesn't. So I think what I'm going to do for the pen blank club, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to redo these. I might go with a mica powder type thing. Just because I'm not 100% sure on these things. Everything's better with 14 karat gold. I know. Oh, I almost forgot. Speaking of 14 karat gold, I got a sticker from Mike McEwen. Check it out. He brought these to SWAT and then he sent me one. He mailed one to me. So we got to put this up on the pressure pot. I think right there is a good place for it. So let's do that. I'm gonna grab a little alcohol, denatured alcohol, to wipe this dust and junk off. Make sure it sticks well. But I thought that was pretty cool. Show you guys one more time. You probably won't be able to see it so well. Let me zoom back a little bit. There we go. Pretty cool. All right, here we go. Going on the pressure pot. Yeah, you can see. Look at that. Boom. So thanks for sending that, Mike. I appreciate it. Tim's here. What's up? Sparkly ecru. I don't even know what that is. What is ecru? Ah. Yeah, I think I have something in mind already. I'll probably have to kind of play with stuff, but I think I'm going to switch them up. I think I'll redo it for the pen blank club folks. So we got some I don't know. If you need stuff to glue onto the ends, we got these guys. Tan color. Okay. Let's see here. Parrot colors? Yeah. It's funny because I look at it and I'm like, I look down at these things and I'm like, ugh. But then like I'll put something away and then I'll look at it again. Like it really depends on, I think, what your eyes are looking at first, for like the colors that are coming into your eye for a minute, or maybe even like how much light is in your eye. Then you look at it and you're like, yeah, okay. And then you put it down and like something changes with my eye and I'm like, oh, I don't know. So I think I'll just redo it. But I like it. I'm pretty happy with this pen. I like how small it is. Like I said, I usually go for bigger pens. It's just kind of, I typically go that way. It was on my hands. But I don't know. I think I'm going to use this thing. I like the weight. That brass section, it's kind of nice. I don't think the other one was as heavy. Well, it's thicker, but different weighting. That's interesting. I think the brass might be a little heavier. Kate, are the brass ones a little heavier? The kits, the components? Because I kind of like that. I don't know. Maybe it's just like the length and all that kind of stuff. A little too yellow, but not bad. Yeah, I think I can do better for the folks that are in the pen blank club. So I don't know what to do with these. Maybe I don't know. I'll figure something out to do with those ones. It's not bad. Like I said, I put it down, I look at it, and I'm like, eh. And then I put it down, and I look at it, and I'm like, I don't know about that. That's not good. So I've said that a few times, but it's really weird how it's working. But anyway, guys, thanks for joining the fun today. I had a blast. Really love these kits. Like I said, still have that discount code going. Let's pull up the discount thing. So the code itself is ResinWorks15. This link automatically applies it. I kind of forgot to mention that at the beginning. So there's that. If you enter that code on your first order, you get 15% off. Pretty cool. And they got blanks over there. They got all kinds of good stuff. They have 2 different kits. Like I said, the Artemis, which is a little bit bigger, and you get, I'm pretty sure it's the number 6 size nib. And then this one's the Apollo, and you got the number 5. So not too bad. These kits, like I said, watch, just keep an eye. Don't rush it when you're doing the drilling and the gluing and all that stuff. It's not hard or anything like that, but if you don't pay attention to what's going on, you can kind of screw things up. Most of the things are fixable. Like unless you blow the blank up or something like that, that's totally different. But even if you screw up gluing or doing any of that stuff, you can really, for the most part, you can still recover. So just keep that in mind, but try to take your time and get those drill marks done, and then you don't have to worry about anything. Everything's good to go. So would that dull your turning tools? Oh yeah, sand definitely would be abrasive. But I believe that I think I've seen people that do it. I think Divine, I don't know if they sell the blanks or not though. Divine Turning Supply. Might even just be Divine Pens. I don't know. Divine. Do they sell blanks anymore? I'm not seeing blanks. I'm pretty sure that Braxton Frankenberry made one with sand in it, and I'm sure it probably sucked to turn. It depends on how much you put in there. It could be done. The thing is, like, I've done a lot of those things where you put these, weird materials in. I mean, the Duncan Junk series. And you guys probably noticed that I don't do that a whole lot anymore. And it's gotten to the point where we've kind of tried most things, and the things that I haven't tried, I don't want to try. Like, they're not fun to turn usually. So it's like, I'd rather just turn a blank. I enjoy that more. So anyway, but yeah, you could do it. It'll work. It's a very limited edition. I was just reading the comments. Yeah, this sticker is cool. I like it. Thanks for sending it, Mr. Gold. So anyway, guys, I hope you have a great rest of the afternoon. Have a great Labor Day weekend. Hopefully you guys are doing something fun, maybe barbecuing. Remember, you don't want to wear white after Labor Day, so pull out your black stuff or gray or whatever. See, I didn't wear any white. But anyway, I will see you guys next Friday. We'll do something else. I'm not sure yet. I got a couple of cool ideas for blanks that I have in mind. Actually, quite a few different ideas. And then we'll see. I'm hoping maybe I can get the other computer set up so that we can stream. This one's working. It's not making that noise anymore, but it seems to be running very hot. The fan is just on it like constantly. So gonna die someday, but I'll just have to get all my everything figured out on how to get everything hooked up to the Mac Mini, and then we'll switch. And there might be some cool things like I said, the Prism Studio or Prism Live or whatever allows you to actually just use your iPhone. So I can just whip that out and, you know, get some probably good footage with the phone. So it'll give me a couple of different things that you can do. But I need to figure out how to configure everything first. So I'll get on that as soon as I can. So anyway, guys, have a great rest of the evening. Thanks for joining the fun, and I'll see you guys on the next stream.